Hello and welcome to Bluebeard Sports Radio. Everyday sports made simple for everyone. I'm your host, Trey Bull, and today we got a local shout out to Bros House of Fades in Sherman, Texas. If you're really looking for your best haircut, they're the place to go. Voted number one in Texoma's businesses for the last 3 years. Got to go check them out. My man Carlos holds it down for me and my son. Can't really ask for a better haircut in the Texoma area. Today we have everyday expert Matt Funk. Get on with me today. We're going to talk about the MLB playoff preview, Major League Baseball playoff preview. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be here.
Good. I'm glad to have you on. So before we talk about this season's playoff preview, let's talk about next season's playoffs with their Purdue proposed 2022 playoff expansion. Have you had a chance to look into that?
Yeah, man.
Or am I about to shock your world?
No, we can chat format, but I've kind of done some research just on how that's gonna be, and it's exciting for the consumer. I'll tell you that much. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, I like the fact that they're adding up to 14 teams. They're adding 4 more teams compared to where in 2012, it was only 4 teams from each league going into the playoffs. So now they're almost doubling down on that to make it 7. Kind of like how I guess how the NFL playoff expansion happened last year. They went to 14 teams where, the number 1 team is going to get a bye. And then the next 3, 2 of the division winners and the highest of the wild card teams are going to host a 3-game series. And then the playoffs will continue as they normally do from there. But I think this is going to give more opportunity. I mean, you got 30 teams, and they're the only major sport that doesn't have more than 5 teams of each league make a conference. In hockey, you got 16. In basketball, you got 16. NFL, you had 14. I mean, I know they play 162 regular season games, but the playoffs just seems always so short with MLB.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think the reason is, right, they just recently changed it years ago to 5-game series at the beginning to try to shorten it because, the seasons go through October, and it's just a really long season, right? April to October. But the reality is they're losing out on so much money because last year during this COVID, when they brought in, the fact that there was a best of 3 series, with the wild card teams and the division winners. I mean, people were watching like crazy, and this also lets your young teams like the Marlins get in last year, and it lets some new, I hate to say the word, but new talent. But I mean, the reality is it just allows for more fan bases to be able to see their season go further. And, that just leads to more profits, both in the stadiums as well as merchandising. And I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It was always so lame that baseball would have 4 on each side. We're the only ones who made it.
Well, I think, like you're saying, like it's great for their teams to get promoted this way, but I think it's also great for the players. Someone here in Texas, all I see is Astros and Rangers. That's pretty much all I can see. And maybe every once in a while, a national broadcast game. But now with the playoffs, every game being broadcasted, I'm going to be able to see who these guys are in San Francisco, making this team work out of nowhere when everybody thought they were going to be down and out this year. So it's a chance to get these guys exposure to Dash on the national level. So I think expanding was definitely something that they were absolutely going to end up doing down the road. And it's something that definitely needed to happen for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, they took it the last couple of years. They've added a second wild card team, so then you have the wild card game, which is just nuts, right? That's very wheels off.
The one and done.
Much like one and done, man. It's wild. But so this makes it a little more even of a playing field. Plus, the more teams in the playoffs, it'll the season will go a little longer, or they'll have to figure out the logistics of it all. But probably it just makes too much sense to compare to the other leagues, which generate more revenue than the MLB did.
Well, I think this is also going to create a lot of new strategy. You usually throw out your number 1, number 2 guy. Well, if you're in that first round in a 3-game series, when you start that next series, you're not going to be able to start your number 1 or your number 2. You're going to have to start with number 5.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think the strategy will be in play there, depending on who you got going out for the first 2 games of your 3-game series.
Yeah, I've yet to really see anybody who doesn't like the new format, right? It almost seems like I said, a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road they switch it to a 7-game series to start, and then maybe shorten the regular season down to 150 games. Take 12 games out of the regular season, and you're only adding 7 games to the playoffs. I mean, if they're complaining about longer seasons now, I know that's going to help. That's going to deter people from trying to hit the home run record in 12 less games and stolen base records and stuff like that. But I feel like everybody's more worried about getting that pennant at the end of the year than getting the home run championship in that year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it, right? Yeah, you're right. The stats will change, but baseball in general has changed, right? Like the stats are
strikeouts keep going up and up.
Yeah, strikeouts keep going out or up. People are hitting more home runs more often. It's just like, I mean, yeah, legacy wise, if you're Albert Pujols and you're, inching closer and closer, you don't want to lose those games
Opportunities,
for the year. Yeah. But it is what it is. I think more playoffs is better for baseball.
I feel like it's going to draw more people back. Like I might start watching more. I mean, I usually watch, I've always used to watch, and then last 3 or 4 years when the Rangers have just kind of just been sliding down the hill, this might help me bring people's interest back into the game, which is always something they need to do to compete with the other major sports.
Yeah, man, the popularity of baseball continues to dip. And I think last year during COVID, when they brought it back, it was becoming more popular. And that's, I think some of the rules they changed to, the fact that this year they didn't let the DH be in the National League, which seemed really popular. They didn't let that happen, but they still let runners start on second base in extra innings. There was
that, and then doubleheader games. The second game is only 7 innings.
Yeah.
Like that was bizarre. Like, what was it? He got a complete game, but it's not going to count as a complete game because only threw 7 and not 9. Like, it's
dumb
a lot
as
of
hell,
weird
man.
things happen. They're trying to figure something out to bring that crowd back, which is
speaking
awesome.
Of speaking of stats, like you mentioned earlier, I mean that's going to factor in, right? Because let's call it a Hall of Fame resume, right? You're sitting there looking at it, and in the statistics of complete game, it's going to show up, but there's going to be an asterisk next to it saying, "Oh, this was a 7-inning complete game versus a full complete game." So that's already happening. The changing of stats and that kind of stuff. So you're right. Shorten it by 4 series in the year and add that to playoffs.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where everybody's going to want to really bow down and get their name made for themselves is October. You got people coined Mr. October. So
that's
that'd be great for them. All right. So that's next year's playoff run. Before we dive into this year's, let's talk about some major trade deals that happened that let teams into the playoff run or continue to help them make that playoff push. The first one I want to mention, which I know is like the number one deal that happened, was for the LA Dodgers when they went and got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner from Washington. And I believe that's the biggest deal that has made the biggest sense with the Dodgers. They lost Trevor Bauer to his situation that's going on. We're not going to dive into that. And then Trey Turner, who's actually switched and he's playing a lot more second, where he was actually playing short for Washington because of Corey Seager there at shortstop. So that's just made so much more sense for them. And I want to throw out 2 stats for these 2 guys since they joined the Dodgers. Max Scherzer is 7-0, a 1.43 ERA in 10 games with 85 strikeouts. Like, that's insane. And then Trey Turner, since joining them, is batting .318. He has 10 stolen bases and 13 doubles since joining. So they've both done a huge impact for that roster to help keep them elevated and to continue to compete to catch San Francisco. And they're still trying to fight for the winner of their division.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're the best team in baseball. They were one of the best teams in baseball even before they made that trade, let alone now. I mean, to think you added Trey Turner to a lineup with, Muncy and Mookie Betts and, Corey Seager and Justin Turner. Like, the list goes on and
Shout
out
to people with red beards.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's absolutely wild because that trade, it made sense for the Dodgers to do. But, I mean, it just shows you that the teams that are going to continuously compete at a high level, continuously bring in new talent, and they make the trades, man. They try to get it done. Yeah, the Dodgers have a lot of money. I get it. They do. But to make these trades, they also have to be willing to, give up they draft well, right? They draft well, so they're able to trade top talent. They sign international free agents. Again, that does come down to money, and then they rank up in their system and they flip all those. That's what they've done every single year. And I think the Dodgers have turned into the new modern age Yankees that you and I are used to, where money is no object. They'll get whatever they get what they want, and it makes them, juggernauts. And that's what Scherzer and
Trey Turner
did. Yeah.
Well, the Yankees are still no slouch in that either. They went out and got Joey Gallo from the Rangers, who couldn't hit water.
He does hit it, goes far.
Yeah. But yeah, when he does, he's got 13 home runs with him, 7 doubles. Then they got Anthony Rizzo. They were not doing well with left-handed bats, and they went and got one of the most powerful left-handed bats, and Anthony Rizzo, who's another great first bat. He's a great DH/first baseman for them. So they needed left-handed power. They need left-handed hitting, and the Yankees said, "Hey, we're going to go get it in order to keep up with these other guys who are making their moves as well."
Yeah, man, and they're doing the same thing, right? The Yankees every year they go out and they trade for difference makers. Now, I will say Rizzo was having a down year, right? But the Cubs were terrible. The Cubs knew they needed to flip him. They're paying him a lot of money for a team that's obviously on the rebuild time frame now. So it's just Gallo is having a good year power wise. He adds fear to that lineup. But let's be honest, the Yankees are a huge strikeout team, and they don't care. They're going to hit bombs.
They're going to hit them.
That's it. If you look up and down that roster, I bet most of them are at least top 5 in strikeouts at their position too. It's crazy.
Let's say with Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, they both strike out. And it's just
Gary Sanchez. He strikes out a lot.
Oh man,
it's crazy.
No, but yeah, you said the Cubs. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna be a little bit of a homer, just in the fact that I think the Braves went out and made some good moves. I think that the Padres went out and didn't make good moves. I think I think their team, was already limited in its. They have they're a team in turmoil, right? Because they're all fighting for kind of power between Machado and Tatis. I know you saw that little argument they had in the dugout together a few days ago, and it's just like there's so much stress, but that's because they're just throwing a bunch of money at people and hoping something sticks, right? There's no cohesiveness.
Darvish. Yeah, they're one game away from being eliminated, so I don't really know if we're going to do a whole lot of talking about them with the playoff talk tonight.
But you're right.
You were telling earlier about the Cubs rebuilding, and so not only did they trade Rizzo, not only did they trade Rizzo, they traded Craig Kimbrell to the White Sox, Chris Bryant to the Giants, and I had one more written down, Jock Peterson to your Braves. Yeah. So the Cubs were definitely cleaning house, and they also traded Baez to the Mets.
Yep.
So they were definitely like, hey, you know what? We need to rebuild. So. I mean, that's what the trade deadline's about. I think what's crazy is I think, the NBA trade deadline's good, but I think the most exciting trade deadline is definitely Major League Baseball. I think there's more trades that happen for good reasons for this. I mean, like the Dodgers, they went and traded and got Max Scherzer, who's a free agent in a month, in 2 months.
Yeah.
Like they're not keeping him. Hey, we're going to keep this guy for this year, and then he's gone. But I think this is the most exciting trade deadline in any major league sport. By far.
Yeah, the NFL never has a lot of trades. The NBA, they've had a bunch recently, but it's usually in the off season, not so much at the deadline.
Right.
But for baseball, you're right, man. When that deadline comes, you're
major names are getting moved.
Studs. Yeah, you're watching studs be moved, and that's just as exciting as it is. You mentioned earlier, I mean, that move for Chris Bryant by the Giants, that's helped propel them to one of the best teams in baseball still. And the Dodgers literally had to make that move
to keep up with them.
To even make it close.
Well, that and the thing with them with Chris Bryant, because, they also have Evan Longoria who can play third, which is what Chris Bryant normally plays. He's actually playing a lot of outfield for him. So
I know,
his versatility has been great. But you got to be able to put him somewhere. You got to keep that bat in the lineup with no DH.
That's right. We could talk
So,
that later again. The DH thing.
but
Ooh.
yeah, let's start diving into this. Let's start talking about some current standings in the season right now. So let's
Yeah.
take a look. I'm going to start looking at the AL East.
Okay.
Tampa Bay has secured the division. Tampa Bay has won that division. But you have Boston and New York, with New York's win today, that are now moved into a tie for the top wild card spot.
Man,
So
that division, dude, it's
as
just unreal.
and Toronto's still 2.5 back. Toronto's still in the mix there in that division for the wild card spot. Like, honestly, it's going to be two teams out of this division making the wild card. I'm putting that out there now, and we're going to talk about that later. But I just don't see it happening anywhere else.
Yeah, you're right, dude. And again, now I will say though, the Yankees and Boston play each other. There's a 3-game stretch. They're about to play each other,
Yep.
and then the Rays play them too. I think that's a bunch of interdivisional games coming in, and you're right, dude. There will probably be 2 teams in the wild card from the East, but who knows? Maybe Toronto can sneak in there still. All I'll tell you is one thing, and this is probably the most important part when we talk about the AL East, is that Tampa Bay is just such a well-run organization, man. They are just like, I wish they could play in a market that was better, because that team, the fact that they continue to put out a competitive team without a major market like wallet, so to speak, is just unreal. It's unreal, dude. It really is.
That, and they brought a little nuance to their game where, the starting, they did this last year. They had a reliever go out to start the game for maybe an inning or two, and then brought their starter in after that. They did that a lot at the end of the year last year. So they're definitely wants to try things, and definitely worked for them. They made a good run at the end of the year last year. Obviously, it's worked out for them this year as well.
Yeah.
A lot of exciting things coming out of the AL East. When you look at the AL Central, literally a one-man race. White Sox won that one outright already. And from what I understand, the White Sox have one of the best starting rotations in the league. So they're going to be pretty dangerous if their bats can get going as well. And then when they traded for Craig Kimbrell, they got another empty arm coming out of the bullpen. So
yeah, I mean, he's lights out, dude. From that right side, the dude can just straight up bring it. And he's been on one this year. He's been killing it. But you're right, dude. Now I will say that division's not very good. Think of the AL Central as the NL East of the divisions, right? And they're even better than the NL East,
right?
But because Cleveland had a bad year, Detroit's terrible,
and yet they're better than Minnesota this year.
Yeah. I mean, all these teams are. Yeah. Anyways, it's exciting to see the White Sox do something, because they've been kind of building towards this moment for a while.
Oh yeah. And then let's move on to the AL West. You have Houston, who has a 5.5 game lead on Seattle. So Seattle still has a shot to win that one. But Houston's really wanted to make a run this year, do something, because with everything that happened with them, with what's it called, Trash Can Gate, Buzzard Gate, man, whatever it is now. And then when they get to the playoffs, teams are not going to be happy to play them. They're going to want to get rid of them quick, get them out. They just don't want to deal with them. Or from what I'm looking at, they do have the best run differential in the American League, plus 206, man. That's insane.
Yeah, dude, they're putting up runs, man. Their offense, like Correa's had a little bit of a bounce back year. They brought back Marwin Gonzalez, who was always really good for them in a pinch. And honestly, they just compete, man. They're kind of playing with that chip on their shoulder that they used to have back in the day, and it's exciting. I want to talk for a second just about how good Seattle has been this year. Again, out of the blue, man. It's another one of those teams where you're surprised that they're up there, even that close.
Yeah, so they were definitely chosen to be they were chosen to be fighting for Texas for last in that division at the beginning of the year. So the fact that they're up there competing, and the thing is, they started out super hot, which I think has helped them maintain that run. Like, I'm sitting here looking at their roster, and I'm not recognizing a whole lot of names.
I know, it's wild, man. It's wild what they're having a Rays type of season where you don't know any of the players that are there, but they're putting up wins. I mean, they're turning it on at the back half too, so that's what even has them a chance to catch Houston. It won't happen. Houston's winning that division. They scored too many runs, but the fact that they're pushing like this is pretty fun to see.
They still got a shot at that wild card spot too. Looking at the roster, man, the only name I recognize on this one is Kyle Seager. That's because he has been a Seattle staple.
Yep, I know. One of the only ones, right?
Oh, man. Let's see here. So after that, AL West, Houston's probably still going to just run away with that. They got a 5.5 game lead with, do my quick math, 7 games left.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough one for Seattle to come up over.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the National League, starting with your NL East with your Atlanta Braves. Got the lead on that one, but Philly 1 game back there for
Philly is hot as can be. I think so. Philadelphia and Atlanta play a series starting on Tuesday of this upcoming week, and that's going to decide the division, right? There's only so many games. So Philadelphia versus Atlanta in Atlanta, the season comes down to that. It doesn't matter if the Braves lose tonight like they are right now, and it's a half game difference.
Right.
Nothing matters except for those so those games next week are going to be playoff games, because nobody's winning with how hot the Cardinals have been and the Dodgers with
get that
Dodgers. You're not getting a wild card. Yeah, it's just division or bust.
Yeah, they're definitely in striking distance. 1 game back right now, pending the Atlanta game, and Phillies won 8 of their last 10. Currently on a 5-game win streak. So definitely hard. And Bryce Harper, I know, has been going off for them since the All-Star break. So I know Atlanta made all those trades. I mean, they went and got Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler, and Eddie Rosario to try and get some depth in that outfield. They've done pretty well for them while they've been there, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough to hold off Philadelphia with the push that they're making.
Yeah, the problem's not the offense in Atlanta. The problem is the pitching, the bullpen pitching, to be specific. The starters have been fine. They've at the very least been, middle of the road, but it's the bullpen that's just let them all down, man. They let a couple pieces walk this year, and it's really hurting them. And honestly, as a top tier Braves fan, I like to think I chop till I drop, or whatever the old saying was, but I think this is a year that Philadelphia, with how hot they are, can kind of sneak in and take this division. The Braves have not, as you can see, they put up runs with their 118 run differential, but their record when they've lost, I think they've only won 23 out of 50 games or something, 52 games when it's a 1-run game. And that's because their bullpen continues to drop them in the back half.
Yeah, that, and then they've won 30. They're 30 and 39. And against teams better than 500, which the Phillies aren't much better, but that's just not going to cut it. You are facing those top tier teams when you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, man, that division is just not very good, and everybody thought it was the Mets to lose, but anybody who watches the NL East all the time knew that it was just a matter of time before one of these teams. And honestly, Philadelphia has a good team. They've got a lot of players. Again, it was their bullpen last year that let them down, and it's the same thing that's happening to Atlanta this year. It doesn't really matter, because honestly, we'll get to it when we get to the brackets. But yeah, we'll talk more.
All right, so let's move on to the NL Central. This one's kind of like the AL Central. There's a team that's just already went and clinched the playoff spot. They're way out in front. Yes, technically they haven't clinched the division yet, but Milwaukee at 92 and 62 with 8 games left, they have vaulted themselves up to a 6.5 game lead over St. Louis, who is streaking right now. 15 in a row for St. Louis. They're just killing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee's only 3-7 their last 10, and the problem for Milwaukee, they've always had this year, the reason they've been so good is the pitching, and that's kind of slipped up recently. Honestly, if we were to have this lead, right, 6.5 games or whatever it is they have on St. Louis, if you gave St. Louis an extra month of the season, St. Louis wins that division pretty easily too.
Of course,
But
now
I
earlier
mean,
we were talking about
Milwaukee.
taking away almost a month, half a month.
Good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and I think that's why baseball is so long. You're right. And honestly, teams can get hot, and right now St. Louis is hot. They look like a force to be reckoned with, and they already have such a great playoff record as a team. So
Yeah.
I'd be afraid of them.
I say with the captain back behind that plate, Yadier Molina, just killing it still back there for them. Been there his whole career, is just dominating back there. I did see that one highlight where he was playing Colton Wong, his ex teammate who's now with Milwaukee, and Colton got a steal on him, and Colton kept second base, and then Yadier Molina went and signed it for him. I thought I love those interactions in baseball, man. Those are definitely ones you miss watching. All right, last one, NL West. This is probably going to be the most exciting down to the wire end of this division possible, with San Francisco and LA at the top. San Francisco at 154 and LA at 99-55 as a record. One game back with 8 games to go. So like it's going to be an exciting end there for that one.
I mean, and those two teams are so different, right? Like if you think about it, San Francisco is a team that I guess they're pretty similar actually if you think about it, because both the Dodgers and the Giants have so much depth that what they do is they basically choose their lineup based on splits, based on whether they're better against lefties or righties, or this pitcher, or if they're better at day games instead of night games, or if they're better at home or on the road. Like they have all these players that can pick and choose. And the difference is the Dodgers are all the big name guys that San Francisco's have just been people overperforming, people who had kind of
and then they went and got
fell into
that leader that they needed out of Chris Bryant.
Yeah, maybe, man, but they were hot even before that. I think people like Brandon Crawford, who's been there a while, Brandon Belt, who's been there for a long time, like these guys even are performing whenever they have to be. And so it's unreal the year that the Giants have had. And the worst part for them though is they're in the same division as the Dodgers. The Dodgers are easily the best team in baseball. And it sucks for the Giants, because the reality is the Dodgers are probably going to catch them and win that division, and then the Giants are going to have to face a 1-game playoff against probably St. Louis.
Yep. Well, so I'm sitting here looking at the end of their schedules for San Francisco. They got to finish up a series against Colorado, which currently they are losing right now.
It's Colorado in Colorado, and they have like the best home record in baseball.
Yeah, they got the Diamondbacks at home, and then the Padres at home. So San Francisco ends at home against the Diamondbacks, which is a pretty good series for them to continue to keep their lead, and then against the Padres, which could be up in the air. But then if you look at the Dodgers, they've got the Padres at home next after their series with the Diamondbacks, but then the Milwaukee is coming into LA. So that's going to be a really good series to end it. And that series there could decide what happens between San Francisco and LA. Is that LA versus Milwaukee series there at the end of the year?
I agree, man. Dodgers have a harder schedule, but again,
I know they're the better team, but schedule-wise, it's going to be pretty tough.
A harder schedule for sure. But their team is just unreal. So it's
All right, so that's kind of a quick run through each division. Now let's take a look at the wild card standings. We're going to start with the American League. Tampa Bay has clinched their division. White Sox have clinched their division. The Houston Astros are winning their division right now, I believe, by 2.5 games. I believe I have that math. No, they're about 4.5 games. But if we look at the actual wild card standing, Boston and the Yankees are tied with 88 wins and 67 losses. Seattle and Toronto are both behind them, 2.5 games back, at 85 and 69. And then the only other team that technically still has a shot is the Oakland A's. Technically, they are not eliminated yet.
Yeah.
We'll see how that looks here halfway through the week. But I think it's going to come down to between Boston, New York, and Toronto for the wild card spots, and then Seattle, Houston. Like you said with Atlanta, it's going to be who's going to win that division is going to make the playoffs. I think the other one's going to be out.
Yeah. You're probably right. The thing about that AL East is there's a lot of competition there, man. Like, and they all play each other at the end of the year, I believe. I at least know the Yankees have a tough schedule down the stretch, man. And there's a chance. I don't know who Seattle has the rest of the year. You're probably right that they're gonna slip up and whatever. Toronto's in that same AL East category though, right? Like they've struggled down the stretch when they had just heated up and got caught up, and they score a ton of runs. If you look at the run differential, they're like number 3 in the AL. But I just think their youth they're 1 year away from taking the AL East, let alone winning it. Or let alone making the playoffs. I think they'll win the AL East next year. But this year, I'm going to choose, I think, well, I guess we're about to project it here in a second, right? So I'll keep those
we'll
cards
pick our
in
wild
mind.
card team now, so that way we have it picked.
Okay. All right. So I'm sticking with Boston winning the first wild card spot, and I'm going to go ahead and take yeah, you're probably right. I'll just take the Yankees. It's probably going to stay the way that it is.
So Boston definitely has the easiest schedule to end the year. They're going to end it with the series against Washington, and they got the Orioles. So they got one more game against the Yankees. Then they got 3-game series against the Orioles and 3 games against the Nationals. The Yankees, after their series with Boston, have 3 at Toronto.
Yep.
And then they got Tampa Bay at home. So the Yankees definitely have the harder one. And then, now listen to this. Seattle is playing the Angels right now. I know the Angels are technically winning tonight right now. But then they have a 3-game series at home against the Oakland A's, and then a 3-game series at home again against the Angels, which, by the way, Mike Trout said he's now done trying to come back for the year. Seattle definitely has an easier schedule, 2.5 games behind New York, and New York still got to play Toronto and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, but to that point, I don't think they can take they would almost have to play flawless baseball the next 7 games to make it, I think, personally, to overseed one of those teams ahead of them. Because, right, I mean, realistically, you have to think Boston will win 5 of the next 7 4 of the next 7 games. And so you would have to expect the Yankees to win 2 of them, and Seattle would basically have to go play flawless baseball and win all of them. Yep. I don't see that happening. Now, because Toronto plays the Yankees, I think they would have the only chance to get in there. But I still like the Yankees' chances with how hot they are right now.
And you know what? I'm not just doing this to follow you up. But yes, they're looking at the rest of the Red Sox schedule. They're going to definitely get that first one. And I'm going to be biased. I love Joey Gallo. I got his bobblehead in my classroom where I teach. I got to go with Yankees because I want Gallo to get a little piece of that action.
God, dude, that'll be a fun 1-game playoff, though.
Red Sox, Boston, Yankees. Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you want in the playoffs, right? You want Boston, New York.
Yeah, dude, that's a hell of a game. I'm all about that.
All right, so I'm locking you in. Boston and New York is your wild card teams.
Yeah.
All right, you're locked in there. All right, so let's take a look now at the National League wild card. Right, I think the 2 teams are set. I think the second team is set. The first team is not set. The first team, it's either going to be LA or San Francisco. I think the second team is going to be St. Louis. That's my take. Sure. Looking at the end of the schedules like we did earlier, I think I'm going to take San Francisco is going to end up with the wild card. It's going to be San Francisco and St. Louis as the wild card teams.
I'm going to take the Dodgers in St. Louis. Or I'm going to take the Dodgers to win the division. I think it's going to be the Giants. San Francisco to
get the Giants. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think the Giants are going to get the wild card spot against St. Louis.
Who's going to get which wild card spot? St. Louis going to catch San Francisco?
No,
sorry, they can't. They're 14 games behind that.
They can't. Yeah, so it's going to the wild card game will be in San Francisco, and it'll be against the Cards.
All right, so you copied me that time. All right, so we're even that way.
Yeah.
So that was now we got to pick the division winners. We know one of them. We know two of them, Tampa Bay and the White Sox. Those are your division winners. Tampa Bay and Chicago. Chicago, I don't think is going to catch up to Houston for the second seed. I think Chicago is going to stay the third seed, and I think Houston's going to get the second seed. So Tampa's going to be the number 1 seed with Houston hosting Chicago as the 2 and 3 seeds.
Yeah, you can put me down for that too.
All right. So let's take a look at the National League. You know, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to get you for this one. Atlanta is going to hold off Philadelphia.
Really?
Yep, I'm feeling it.
Dude.
They made those trades. It's going to work here. They just got to hold them off for a week. I got it. I'm holding it down.
Dude, that makes me excited and make me want to go back. But I personally think Philadelphia is going to catch Atlanta. Oh, Trey. I'm going to have to go.
You got the Dodgers number 1, though, right? Dodgers are going to win that division. They got the best record. They got the
Easy.
1 seed, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee's got
Milwaukee
the 2 seed.
Too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, the homer in me won't let me. I generally, I'm going to do this the right way, though, because I think Philadelphia wins this division. They're playing too hot, and the Braves have cooled off. We don't have the bullpen strength, so I'm going to take Philly to win the East.
All right. I wrote it in. It's in there.
Right.
It is set. Yeah. All right. So now we got our prediction playoffs. We got our table set. We're going to start in the American League. You got Boston, New York in the wild card game.
Man.
Boston hosting. By the way, I don't know if you saw the highlight from their game earlier tonight. Stanton's home run. 114 miles an hour off the bat, 450 feet over the monster. Dang.
Good Lord. Yeah, I'm taking the Yankees.
You gonna take the Yankees?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think they're playing too hot. They got too many bats that are gonna help carry them. And you know the Yankees they invest more, I believe, in their bullpen.
Yeah,
I think they go out and they make sure their bullpen is solid for these kind of situations. So I will take the Yankees as well. All right, so let's just get the American League down. Let's get to our World Series participant. All right, so you got Tampa Bay and New York. Tampa Bay hosting 7-game series. Who you got?
Oh, I'm taking Tampa Bay. In a 7-game series, I'm taking Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay?
Yep.
Yep, and then the Texas Ranger would be the person who just can't stand the Yankees. And plus, my name being Trey Bull, I got to stick with TB in Tampa Bay. TB all the way, except for unless your name's Tom Brady. We'll get to that in a different time.
God. Come on, dude. Why do you even have to bring that up?
All right. So let's see. The next series, Chicago White Sox at Houston. I'll take this one first for you.
Go for it.
I got it. I'm once again. I'm biased. I don't like them. I'm gonna have to go with the White Sox. I think their starting rotation that's been the best throughout the year. It's going to continue to hold that way. They've been got their bullpen holding down Craig Kimbrell. I think the White Sox are going to pull away with that one.
All right. I'm going to take Houston. I think the offense of Houston and the experience that Houston has in the playoffs is going to catapult them ahead of the White Sox.
Now, their experience in the playoffs is cheating. So,
yeah, dude.
Count that as real experience when you're facing good pitching and you don't know what's coming.
Fair enough. They haven't known what's coming all year, though, and they have the best run differential in baseball. So, actually, I think it's second to the Dodgers. But, yeah, I'm still taking Houston.
All right, fair enough. All right, so you got Tampa Bay and Houston in the American League Championship Series. Who's winning the AL pennant?
Houston.
You got Houston?
Yep. I think their offense will outweigh Tampa Bay's strategy in this. I have a hard time thinking Tampa Bay is going to make it to 2 World Series in a row.
Right.
So that's really difficult to do. So typically I would choose Tampa because I like what they do, but it's really hard to repeat. So I am taking Houston.
Fair enough.
The AL.
I think I'm going to stick with. I think I'm going to stick with Tampa Bay. I think
Okay.
they got a taste of it last year. They want to go and Tampa Bay's just winning it all. You got the Lightning, you got the Bucks. They missed out. They're going to go get it this time.
All right. I like
They're
it.
going to get there again. They got a taste of it. They want to go finish it off. All right, National League wild card game. St. Louis at San Francisco. I'll go first on this one. I think St. Louis is too hot. 15 in a row. I know you might lose one again. You're going to. It's baseball. That's kind of how it works. I'm going to take St. Louis. I think they got the hot hand.
Yeah, I'm taking the Giants at home. I think they play too well at home. I know Flaherty's really good for seeing. Oh, is he hurt? I can't remember if he's pitching still. I know Wainwright's playing out of his mind, but I personally like the Giants' strategy versus St. Louis's hot streak. So I'll take the Giants. Plus, I want to see a Giants-Dodgers first round.
Flaherty is not hurt right now.
Okay, so he's starting the game for them, which is good, but I still take the Giants.
All right, you still got the Giants. All right, so then that sets up Giants at LA for you.
I'm taking LA, man. Dodgers are the best team in baseball.
Too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to go with them as well. Stick with my red bearded brethren.
Yeah.
Turner. Gotta stick with him. All right, so then you have Philly at Milwaukee, and I've got Atlanta at Milwaukee. And unfortunately for Atlanta, this is the end of the road for them. Milwaukee's just going to be a little too much for them. I think that one might make it to 5 games. Might.
Yeah, the pitching Milwaukee has is too good for the Phillies too. I don't think the Phillies can keep up. So I'm going to take Milwaukee as well.
All right. So it looks like we have the same National League Championship Series. Let's go. You've got Milwaukee at LA.
You already know who I'm picking.
Milwaukee.
Dodgers. Yeah. Yeah, Milwaukee. No,
Yeah,
the Dodgers.
the Dodgers.
For sure. Yeah.
So you got Trash Can Series coming back. Houston at LA.
Yep.
That's gonna be a good revenge series for LA. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and beat somebody to start the first game. Or they get the first game under their belt and they come out and do it in the second one. There's gonna be a lot of heat in that one. Yeah, I'm gonna pick LA to take out Milwaukee as well. They're just too loaded. It's not gonna be stopped. All right, so here we are, World Series. You have Houston at LA, and I've got Tampa Bay at LA.
So you have the repeat of last year, right?
I have the repeat of last year.
And I have the repeat of 3 years ago?
2 years. Yep. And I'm going to take what happened last year. I think LA is just too much. LA is too much for Tampa Bay. You're going to take LA as well?
Yeah, dude. LA is too much for everybody. With those trades they made, they're going to be – it's kind of like when Golden State was at their prime. I think you got to go with –
And then they're at their prime and they went and got KD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers were already good, and then they went and got Scherzer. So, and Trey Turner doesn't hurt as a nice added bonus.
No, not at all. Batting 318 since joining the team? No, not at all. Heck, that's almost double what Joey Gallo's been batting for New York since he joined them.
Dude, I know.
All right, so we both have LA winning the World Series this year. Would not have been a surprise. A lot of people probably picked them at the beginning of the year to make it that far. The important thing is the next year, 2022, Texas Rangers sliding in as that 7 seed and taking it all the way with a new expanded playoff.
No.
You got to have hope, man. They got that new
That's
team.
true.
You're going to get a bunch of like Scherzer's a free agent from Texas. Come on.
No, he's not.
Kershaw's going to come back home.
They're both too far away. They're too far away for any of those guys going there.
Oh, no, absolutely. Hey, man can hope, though, right?
That's right. Just dream.
All right, Matt, brother. Thanks again for coming on with us. Our everyday expert, Matt Funk, picking LA to win the World Series. Shout out again to Bros House of Fades. Once again, best haircut in Texoma. Voted the last 3 years. My man Carlos holding it down. And this is your host, Trey Bull for Blue Beard Sports Radio. Thanks again for coming on and listening to us. See y'all next time.